Yes.
So what does that mean, like the unreported?
Well, it means finding out what else is recorded in terms of enrollment information, what may have been. There may be stuff happening there that, and it mostly comes up, I would guess, if your kid is in special education or some other things. FERPA is the Federal Education Privacy Act. I can't remember exactly what it was, but anyway, the idea.
Probably regulatory or something.
Yeah. And then I'm not going to get into the whole sex education thing, but there's a couple of statutes that specifically address that. But I will close with this, just because it's got plenty of shock value. Now, NEA, you know who that is. Anybody know who GLSEN is?
Gay, lesbian, something, something.
Gay, Lesbian, Straight Education Network. What is the E in both of those terms?
Education.
And this is a conference. Now, what can possibly go wrong if you have a conference on homosexual activism that includes the NEA and GLSEN?
Yeah, that's great.
Anyway. So, I mean, a lot of this is not, you know, really new information, but the thing is that the evidence is out there that there are different philosophies of how kids should be educated, and everybody understands the stake, and so they want to make sure that their particular point of view prevails. So let's talk a little bit about some of the themes that we've been developing here. Why is it that, if you think back to what Barton was talking about, why is it that religion, morality, and knowledge are linked to liberty and good Republican government? What's the connection there? Tim?
Maybe it has something to do with the quote that our Constitution is completely inadequate for governing a non-religious people.
Right. And why do you suppose that is?
Well, let's see. Religion is the opiate of the masses, right?
Okay, well, we can't call on Tim anymore because he's quoting bad people.
That's homework.
No, but the whole point of our system of government is that people have to some degree, be self-regulating, right? Otherwise, the government has to pass laws, right? And the more laws you have, the less liberty you have, right? And the less liberty you have, the more what do you have? Tyranny. Okay? So anyhow, the idea here is that while there are many people who will say that liberty demands a disconnect from religion and morality, the teaching that, you know, from what Martin is saying and what a lot of our founders said is exactly the opposite. I'm having a conversation, which I can't say much about because it may come to litigation, but there's a local school district which is indicating that a release time Bible club can't meet during instructional hours, even though there's a release time statute that says if the parents want their kids in release time religious instruction, they get to do that. But we also have independent confirmation that there are Muslim prayer rooms in many of that district schools. Now, if Muslims are supposed to pray 5 times a day, what do you think the chances are that a Muslim prayer room is utilized during instructional hours?
Certain. 100%.
Yeah. So, what is district policy?
Confusing.
Yeah. It's make it up as you go along, depending on which faith you are embracing. Okay, so if we've figured out that Judeo-Christian principles have been run out of the public schools, should we advocate for a restoration of those principles in public schools? How many think yes? How many think no? How many of you don't understand what it is to vote? Okay,
Well,
what
I'd
are
like
you
to
voting
hear the sides for both, because I'm like, it seems obvious to me that you should say no because we don't want the schools running it, but on the other hand, it's like, yes, why wouldn't we want that coming out of that, so. I guess I'd like to hear the debate.
Okay. Jeff?
Can you repeat the question real quick?
Should we advocate for restoration of Christian principles in public schools?
Okay. First problem I would see, I mean, yeah, the obvious thing, it sounds like a yes, but the problem is that you're immediately going to have every wacko sidebar group pop up and say, well, we need our view in. And there's a lot of things that even go under the banner of Christian that probably aren't.
So if the Bible's not the basis for it, then is
Yeah,
it really?
exactly, because once you've departed from scriptural truth, you're gone.
Okay. So there's a no. Who's got a yes?
I believe that we have to start somewhere, and the battle came. We got frozen out in steps, so we need to start back in steps, and we have historical precedents. So let's use some of the old primers, and update them, and have that be the standard, and go from there.
Okay. Stephen?
Where did you get that math primer? Just wondering.
Well, I just downloaded the New England primer while we were talking here in class on my Kindle for 99 cents. And read through some of it. It's quite interesting. I'm pretty sure you can probably get that too. I'll check. Yeah.
Just remember, the internet is the answer to anything.
Speaking his language.
Okay, John.
Here's a test of your educational fruit here. It's a long one. I was going to ask, there's a question for Bart.
Now, wait a minute. I've got a question on the floor. Okay, go ahead.
Maybe this is an answer to that. If over 200 years of tax-supported Christian education, which was usurped by the civil arena, in defiance of the Lord Christ's delegation of the teaching of religion, morality, and culture to the family and the church, if that usurpation has destroyed our civilization in terms of its religion, morality, and culture, why are we trying to revive it and redo it?
And what do you think about that?
I think there's a progression from Samuel Chauncey in 1647, who was telling the Massachusetts governor and legislature houses of Congress, you guys need to support education. Education shall forever be encouraged. That morphed into education shall forever be encouraged by legislative provision. You can't do that without denying Christ's delegation of the rights of property to the family. That's what destroyed it. And you can be as Christian as you want to be if you're violating the foundation of Christ's sovereignty in terms of His being Lord of men's labor and Lord of the land that He purchased by His work on the cross and by inheritance and by several other means. You're never going to end up Christian that way because you've undercut the entire foundation of what Christian means.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate. And that is I believe the parent can delegate to whomever they choose.
That's what I'm saying.
Right, but that may include a public institution.
I'm not saying that. I'm talking about the tax support, not what is taught or what the parents choose to do.
No, but what I'm saying is that if the parents choose to have a publicly supported educational system, that the parents retain that right.
I'm not arguing that. I'm arguing the parents do not have the right, nor does the legislature have the right, to appropriate the family's property in order to do that, either income tax or property tax or sales tax or fees.
I think the family has the right to delegate that.
Not their property.
Sure they do.
okay, they have the right to delegate only their own property,
Right.
not their neighbor's property. That's all I'm saying.
Well, that's a different question, right?
That's the entire question.
I don't, so my point though is that if we really do believe that the parent has the final right or final say, then the parent can delegate that to a third party.
Not the property of the neighbor.
Well, and that's a different answer, right? That's
But
really
that is
the
my
issue.
question and my answer.
Okay.
It's the property right.
Yeah, well, and part of the reason I bring this up is because of the public monopoly situation and the vested interests who say, we will